in and out, arguing, trifling, difficult. Let no, I don't know why you love me.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I just want to start by saying make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos from me. They're a little sporadic right now, but we're gonna make sure that we get the best content. So as you guys could probably see from the title, this video is gonna kind of be about my first year debrief. So we're just kind of gonna talk about what to expect your first year of veterinary school, like if you want to go to veterinary school, what's the point of going to veterinary school, like all of that stuff. We're just kind of gonna run through. I got my iPad, y'all couldn't see that, but I got my iPad full of talking points so that way I don't forget anything that I want to talk about. So starting from the top, my name is Jalea. I'm a first year veterinary student, and I attend Virginia Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. To kind of give you a breakdown, just keep in mind that as I'm doing this, every school is different. Not every school operates the same way Virginia Maryland does. Other schools do things differently, but I'm gonna be talking about Virginia Maryland because that's from my experience. So first things first, is an incoming first year, you'll have orientation and everything, of course, like every other school, and you'll start off your first year with 4 units. If you hear any noise, it's my kitten, disclaimer. But you start off with 4 units. Your first unit is going to be called normal animal, and that's pretty much basically just about everything that's normal with the animal, literally like normal temperature, normal anatomy, normal stuff that you're supposed to see, what normal radiographs look like, normal typical drugs you would use on an animal, things like that. That's pretty much what normal animals about. Your second unit is called dealing with threats. It's basically just about the threats that hinder the animal from being normal. So hence, as you kind of see, all of your units kind of connect in a sense. You don't just jump from a random unit to a random unit. They all kind of connect and like make sense. So normal animals first, dealing with threats second. That talks about bacteria, parasites, like really diseases caused by bacteria and parasites and vectors like ticks and stuff. That's all normal animal. That's all dealing with threats. And your third unit is called moving. Moving is basically about everything that helps the animal to move. So like it's about muscles, it's about bones, it's about tendons, it's all about that good stuff. And then finally, your last and final unit of your first year is called sensing and seeing, and that is basically just about everything the animal uses to sense and see. So eyes, nose, mouth, ears, all that good stuff is all in sensing and seeing, which was my favorite unit, by the way. Love sensing and seeing. That's kind of that. And in our first year, we are in class every day from 8 a.m. sharp to 5 p.m. Now, when I say we're in class, like we're in class sometimes. So sometimes we're literally in class from 8 to 5. Like there's no labs, no nothing else. We just have, 8 to 5, just class. That's it. So that's a lot of teachers in one day. So sometimes we have multiple teachers teaching multiple like lectures. Sometimes we have different teachers every time. It just kind of depends on what is scheduled for us beforehand, because we don't schedule that. They schedule it for us your first and second year at Virginia Maryland. And it's pretty much just like you're kind of just sitting in the classroom. Teachers rotate in and out to you, so they leave the room and more teachers come in to teach the next class, and you have 10-minute breaks in between every hour. So if you have a class from 8 to 8:50, because they're about 50 minutes, you get a break at 8:50 and you start again at 9. So if we have a class from 8 to 5 every day, you get a couple breaks, but it's just not many. And you also have the option to watch stuff from home. So if you decide that I don't want to be here no more, I've been here for like 7 hours, I want to go home, you have every option to do that. And they do record, and you can look at them at home and rewatch them on your own leisure. Like I said, professors come in and out to you. They're available for questions. They're very attentive to their questions. They're definitely available through email or in person, however that works. Our professors are great, honestly, especially in normal animal. I love my professors. So it was a good introduction to meet my professors that I was going to interact with for long periods of time. And typically within a week I remember in moving, we had class from like 8 to 5 one day, and we probably had 16 PowerPoints in 1 week. And those PowerPoints can like range from 30 slides on a good day. I love my 30, Dr. Sasiri, I love your 30 slide PowerPoints. And they can range from that, or it can range to at max, I think I've had a PowerPoint that might have been 75, 80 slides. So that's a lot of slides. Sometimes when they're 75 or 80 slides, they consist mostly of pictures and not so much as like words, but there are a few professors who make all 80 slides full of words, and that sucks. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, it's really sucky. To sit there and then to sit there in class and have to learn it while you're in class and pay attention to what you're learning, and then have to go home and study it again, and you already have 80 slides. It's a lot. If you have like 6 or 7 PowerPoints in a day and they're all like 40-50 slides, that's a lot of material that you're going over 2 times. But that's the best thing to do, because how else are you going to learn it, right? If I could sit here and tell y'all that vet med is a cakewalk, half of the people watch my video would be like, you're lying. And I would be lying, because it's definitely not a cakewalk. But it's worth it. It's for sure worth it. The next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm looking down at my iPad, so please understand that, is labs. So lab was probably one of my favorite things to do at Virginia, Maryland. Like, I love lab. I feel like when we have lab really does solidify everything you're learning in class. So sometimes we'll have our anatomy professor come in and he'll talk to us in class for like an hour or two, and we'll see all these words. I remember in moving, since it's all about the muscles and stuff, you learn all these muscles, biceps femoris and gracilis and all these muscles, and you're like, I don't know what this man is talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I've never heard of a biceps femoris. I've never heard the femoral triangle. I've never heard none of that. So then you're sitting there in class like brain dead, and then when you get to lab, that's when you pull out the cadaver. That's when you look at your dog and you're actually dissecting your dog's like hind limb, and you're looking at those things. You're looking at the gracilis, you're looking at the femoral triangle, looking at the biceps femoris, looking at the gluteals and everything. And that's where you can make sense of stuff, because it's like, okay, I learned this in class, I heard the term a few times, I know that the femoral triangle is a major pulse point for some animals if they have good pulses in their femoral triangle. I know it runs with the saphenous nerve. I learned that in class, but I've never seen it. So now when you get to lab, you can actually put eyes on it, put hands on it. That's how I learned the best, is by putting hands on stuff. When I can put my hands on something, I learn it 100 times more than I would just reading it or just looking at it in class. So I love lab for that reason. I spend, depending on the unit and how well I am able to, I'm not playing this ball. Whichever way I'm able to grasp the material best, I could spend more or less time in lab depending on what's needed. In moving, I feel like I spent more time in lab than any other unit because it's very muscle anatomy based. So I probably spent, after classes were over, I spent maybe additional 2 or 3 hours in lab making sure I understand where the muscles are, what nerves innervate those muscles, what the action is. Like, does it extend, does it flex, is it the digging muscles, the simplest dorsi? Like, just remembering those things really does solidify everything from lectures. To get into this part, I'm going to talk about tips for your first year, what you may need, what you may want to look into if you're incoming first year to Virginia, Maryland. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Class 2027. I'm so happy to meet you guys. And anybody future after that. And I'm still a vet school. I'm going to be 10 times happy to meet you after that. Class 2028, class 2029. As long as I'm there, y'all got my full support, 100%. What I wish somebody told me my first year was that you need some type of note-taking device. I don't recommend paper, specifically on the sheer fact that, like I said, we have a lot of PowerPoints. So unless you are like Flash and you can write that stuff down real quick, or grab the important information and just study that, if you're good at that, you might be fine with notes, like paper notes. That's a good thing to do for me if I'm reviewing, to write down paper notes. That's more important for me than if I'm in class trying to write paper notes, because sometimes professors talk fast or the PowerPoint moves fast and you miss half the information trying to write down what you think is important. So that can be kind of tricky sometimes, and they won't go back. They might ask you, they might go back for one slide if you have a question or something like that, but they're not gonna just keep going back every time you miss a word. They're not gonna do that. So I definitely recommend having an iPad. I have an iPad and I have an Apple Pencil. That's kind of that. I do use GoodNotes for my note taking, and I will show you guys. I think I deleted it. This is GoodNotes, and I paid probably about $10 for GoodNotes, but I think it's worth it. If some people also know in my class, they use Notability, and Notability also you have to pay for long-term use, which I think, like I said, is worth it. It's like $10. When you use Notability or GoodNotes, Notability I heard has better storage. I will say with GoodNotes, I don't necessarily have the best like note-taking like capacity. Like, we have a lot of PowerPoints, y'all. Like I said, it's a lot of PowerPoints. So when I download PowerPoints on my iPad, it takes up a lot of storage. I think I just hung up on my boyfriend. I definitely just hung up on my boyfriend. I have a lot of like notes on my iPad, and pretty much it takes up a lot of storage. So I think it's recommended to either have a lot of gigabytes on your iPad. I know my friend, she has like a 230 something terabyte. She has something, and she has all her notes on there. It doesn't give her no problems. But like with me, when I get to the end of a unit, I can have 2 units on my iPad at one time before my iPad starts like tweaking out. Then I have to delete some stuff or remove it. I did buy an external hard drive to help with the like not deletion, but to store stuff that I might use. I will show you that. I went to Best Buy and I got this. It's called Lassie or something. I can't say a name on it, but this is an external hard drive. It holds, I think it was 2 terabytes worth of information. So it has all my units on here. Once I download, like I can literally just plug it into my iPad like that, and I'll just let it run for a little bit, and it can download all my stuff that I need if I gotta take anything off my iPad or I have to, you know, do anything of the sorts. So it holds all my files, and then I just go to my files and everything and go to my Lassie, and it has all my folders, all my units, and I'm able to go back and access all the things from Normal Animal, all the things from moving and dealing with threats, all of that stuff, all my notes, which is important because like we took a lot of notes. So that's something that I feel like is important to have. I also definitely recommend having a computer. This is my laptop. I have a MacBook Air. Total, it's a little dirty, don't look at that, but I definitely recommend having a laptop. I really got to this point where I realized that I have to have my iPad and my laptop together. So with Apple devices, you can toggle screens, so I can type on my iPad via my laptop computer keyboard. So that has saved me a crap load of time in terms of like typing my notes out. Doing that has saved me a lot of time. So I definitely recommend this combo, this iPad MacBook Air combo, just because it just saves you time if you're a typer. When I review my notes, I don't like to handwrite everything again, so typing it gives me good abilities to go through my notes in a quicker pace, especially like I said, if it's 50 slides. So these 3 things I feel like are a must-have for your first year. And that could be any note-taking iPad or tablet. It doesn't have to be Apple. I just am an Apple girl, like, you know, I'm a little bougie, so I like the Apple stuff. So I'm gonna recommend your MacBook. I'm gonna recommend your iPad, but you can use what is it, the Surface Pro, whatever you like, as long as it's got good note-taking abilities. I think you should be fine. Also gonna recommend obviously having a backpack. You can do what you will when you get to vet school, but of course you gotta have the merch. The merch is the best part. So got my Virginia, Maryland. I'm a student ambassador as well, so I have that backpack. But it's just a lot of cool things you get, little perks. But in order to have your first year be successful, I definitely recommend those things. I also would recommend like finding out how to study. I didn't know how to study. I'm half of us coming from undergrad. We didn't study. We did enough to pass that test, and we kept it pushing. We did enough to pass. We didn't study. We didn't go the extra mile. So I spent majority of my first year learning how to study. Like, that's why I said my iPad and laptop combo, I learned that so late in the game, and I didn't know how to effectively study. But I learned that, and once I learned that, like, I really feel like I got my best studying done once I figure all that stuff out. So I'll show you guys like a glimpse of what my sensing and seeing notes look like. So this is my cat's ear, and pretty much these are my notes on the side. These are all the pages. Oops, these are all the pages that you can see. That's the last page on there, and this is how I make most of my notes. If I have like an animal example, peep him, the animal example of what it's supposed to look like, this is something I would use and highlight, so you could actually get a good representation. If you have your own pets in vet school, definitely use them to study from. But I definitely liked making charts and tables and things like this. I'm very picture based as well, so I have a lot of pictures of like Schirmer tear test and KCS, which is conjunctivitis and everything. So this is helpful for me, is really memorizing what the pictures look like. So when I see the pictures, I'm like, oh, okay, I know exactly what this is. Or if I know the description of what it looks like, what the causes are, the symptoms and stuff, I'm like, oh, if it has epibulbar veins and conjunctival pigmentation, I'm like, this has to be a non-pathological feature of something else. So this is what works for me in vet school, and that's what I learned late in the game. So like I was saying, like making charts and tables and visuals for me is important. in terms of learning how to effectively retain information and be able to recite information, because the main thing you want to be able to do is recite or recall the information that you're learning, because if you can't recall it, then when you see a test question, you're going to be like, I seen it before, I don't know what that does. Like, you'll be like that. So you really want to make sure that you're able to recall, that you're able to recall, and that you're able to remember what you see when you see it, which is basically just recall. But so yeah, one more tip I have for vet school is you definitely want to make sure that you find a study group. Okay, I'm gonna harp about study groups until I'm out of vet school. Okay, until I pass my NAVLE and I'm done. My group, sorry, I'm trying to readjust my camera. My group, my study group, shout out Jasmine, shout out Gabe, shout out Mariah, shout out my group. Okay, like they have helped me study so much. Like I didn't know how to study. Jasmine was really good at studying. She came from a school where she was very good at studying. I have hair on my face, but not me. Okay, I didn't study, but she really did teach me to learn like what my best study methods were. So I think having people around you that have stronger like discipline is what I'm gonna say, have stronger discipline to study than you do, is gonna help you really hone in on what works for you. Sometimes for people that's Quizlet, sometimes it's just doing repeat questions, sometimes it's talking out loud and sounding cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, whatever. Maybe it's writing on your whiteboard, maybe it's like, everything works for everybody differently. So when you find that niche, being around people, you see how they study, you can kind of start to pull some things and adapt it for yourself. One thing I said, like I told you before, which you kind of saw, making summary sheets of one big PowerPoint, even if it's 50 slides, and you're fitting all that information on one page, if you can do that, it'll save you so much time. If you were able to pull the information that's important, and you could make a summary sheet and say, these are the main points, bop, 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 followed up learning objectives, bop, 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 you'll be straight. So I think effectively studying is the best way to really do your best in vet school. I say all that to say, find your people, meet your people, and when you meet your people and you really allow people to help you and not be so hyper independent like some of us undergrads, I'm saying it out loud, some of us, you know, we can do it ourselves. You can't. You need people. You need people in your corner. You need support. You need people that's going to help you pass. So I suggest you find your people early. And you'll probably spend your first year learning how to study. That's very important. Some people don't find out till their second or third year how to study. But the sooner you get it down, the sooner you can pass your test, the sooner you can be done with vet school, basically. So last thing I'm going to talk about is, did I fail out of vet school? I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I didn't fail out of vet school, but I did have to take an advancement exam. So rundown of what that is, pretty much, like I said, you have 4 units in your first year, and your first and second year you have 4 units. But it's talking about first year because I haven't gotten to second year yet. You get an opportunity to quote unquote fail one of your units. I don't recommend failing one of your units, because if you do, you have to take what's called an advancement exam. So pretty much in order to pass a unit, you need at minimum a 64 in the overall class. So you could have got a 50 on one test and an 80 on another and bounce it out. As long as by the time all your grades are in, it equals a 64%, you will pass the class. However, if you happen to fall below, as I did in moving in specific, which was, like I said, was very muscle based and anatomy based, I was going through a personal situation, so I just wasn't up to par for moving, in my opinion. I really just didn't care. I'm not gonna lie. I was at a point mentally where I just didn't care. I was burnt out. I was tired of being in school. I just didn't have the motivation. And, you know, that ultimately resulted in me failing that course. I got a 61.9 overall in the course, which kind of sucked. But, you know, I took the stones that were thrown at me and I made them into a marble countertop. I don't know. Never said that before. But yeah, it was really difficult, and taking the advancement exam was hard. So the advancement exam is basically just an all or nothing exam. If you pass that exam, you pass the course. You fail that exam, well, we don't want to know those consequences. You want to pass it, and you, after our last unit, sensing and seeing ended, so technically when I failed moving, I was able to still move on to sensing and seeing. I just had to pass sensing and seeing, because you don't get 2 advancement exams, you only get 1 per year. So if I failed sensing and seeing, I probably would have just not been in school anymore, which would have sucked. But I passed in seeing with like flying colors. I passed with like a 70. I did really, really well in that unit, but still I didn't pass moving. So after school ended on May 10th, I had to basically start studying. Like, everybody was gone. I'm confiscating his ball because he keeps playing with it and it's driving me nuts. I basically, like, when school ended, everybody was gone. Everybody got there. I'm 25% done, 25% done. Ooh, look at me. I'm going to Peru, like, for the summer because I'm done with vet school. Like, everybody was doing that. And I was like, teardrop, not me. I wasn't done yet. So after that, I had 4 weeks to study. Because you get to go back through all that lovely material you went through the first time. You get to go through it again. And you get to relearn it, but in a better way. So I spent 4 weeks busting my butt. I lived in Panera. I lived off of charged up lemonades. And I studied 5 PowerPoints a day, every day. And I did take a week off because my boyfriend came to visit. So I was kind of just like, I wanted to relax a little bit. And then, you know, I had to get back to work. So I missed about a good week of studying, and I missed a lot of studying in that week that I took off, but it was worth it. My mental needed it. I did what I had to do. And then after that, I had to do at minimum 5 PowerPoints a day. I had to go through 5 PowerPoints a day. And when I say go through, I don't just mean, oh, just breeze through. I remember that. No, you have to like study. Like, you need to be looking at it and breathe, like eat, sleep, and breathe in those PowerPoints. Like, no joke. And then even when I wasn't studying in that, like, so those PowerPoints, I still had to do 5 PowerPoints a day regardless, but I would spend like an hour or 2, maybe even 3 in lab with my anatomy professor and one of the other people taking the exams. We lived in that lab. When I tell you, I stared at the lab until my brain went dead. I couldn't even, I was like, oh, if I was a drooling zombie, you would see that. After I was done with lab, but he would run through, my anatomy professor run through everything on his free time. Like, he wasn't even getting paid to help us study, and he still was helping us study. Like, that's a real one right there. So he put out specimens for us. He put out new specimens that he had just created for us. Like, he was like, y'all gonna pass this test, and best believe it. So thankfully, like, as I was doing that studying with him, and I was doing my own studying, those 5 PowerPoints, I was meeting with Jasmine, like, she was helping me study. Like, it was just boop, boop, boop. I had no breaks. I would go home after everything, and I would be like, I'm so dead, because I would just be studying all day long. I wouldn't leave Panera till they closed, and sometimes when Panera closed, Starbucks was still open, so I'd take my butt from Panera to Starbucks to keep studying. It was a lot. I'm not even gonna lie. So I told myself I'm never ever failing another unit, because I was so stressed out. I just wanted to come home. Like, you know, I had stayed off my Instagram. I went MIA because I was watching everybody enjoy their summers. Like, everybody was, my summer was kind of a month short. Like, it kind of sucked. Like, I literally was watching everybody and traveling, everybody just like posting their 25% done pictures, laughing, smiling, literally just skirt moving out. It was hard for me. It was mentally, took a toll on me, and I was scared. I didn't want to take that exam. I was terrified. I was like, what if I'm doing all this studying and it doesn't pay off? Because you don't know what's going to be on the test. Like, you have no clue. Some of the questions are reused from your previous exam, so you are able to review your exams and stuff, but you still don't know if that's going to be the case. Like, it's terrifying. It's really scary, honestly. I did what I did the best I could. And I took the lab portion, because there's a lab portion and a lecture portion. So my anatomy professor that I was working with, he set up the lab portion for us, and he really did ask us questions that we talked about. He didn't ask questions that we never discussed or none of that. He was very, very, very helpful. And your girl, she did good. I got like an 80 on that portion. So that was higher than any lab exam I've ever had. Like, I was like, now this is what happens when I bust my butt, huh? When I actually do good, this is what's going on. Plus, I was starting to use that new method, like I said, between my iPad and my laptop with studying. So it was really helping out. And then finally, after that, we took the lecture portion a couple days after that. And I was freaking out because we didn't get our grade immediately. So I was like, what if I fail this joint? Like, I'm done. If I fail it, I'm done. So I'm freaking out. But I'm just like, you know what? It's in God's hands. It's out of my hands now. It's out of my hands. And I think I went to a plant shop to like fuel my like relieve my stress. And I got a pizza to relax and to breathe. And I got an email. I was like, oh Lord, I want to look at it, Lord, I want to see it. I looked at the email and it said, congratulations. I said, yeah. I was lit. I was so happy. Like, I was like, dang, I really did that joint. Because I got a 70 something on the lecture. So I'm like, it paid off. I did my thing. I'm so grateful to, like I said, my people that helped, and to just God first and foremost. Like, I'm just grateful to God and everybody that helped me on top of that. So I say all that to say, you really will need a community in vet school. You're gonna need people to help you pass. You're gonna need people to be there for you. You're gonna need that. Like, community is something that's important for vet school and for just life in general. Just have a community. And I'm glad that I have my community that helped me bust that joint out, because I busted it out and then some. So I was really grateful. So yeah, moral of the story, I hope nobody that watches this has to make it to an advancement exam, but I'm all about transparency and I'm humble about it, because I feel like low-key this experience definitely did allow me to be more humble. Like, in terms of, like, when you think you know everything in vet school, that's when you get slighted. Come in humble, come in with an open mind, come in to learn, and to learn from people that may know more than you or may know less than you, and to teach others that don't know as much as you. Come in humble and respectful, like, because if not, everybody has their day. Like, you gotta believe that. You gotta believe that everybody has their day where they don't know something, and that's okay. So it's just remaining humble, not being a know-it-all. You'll be fine. So I want to end this by saying thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. So continue to do so, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much. Bye.